The Auralith Empire, conquerors of countless galaxies, thrived on a singular principle: supremacy through understanding and control. With their gleaming citadels of crystalline architecture and weapons capable of unraveling molecular bonds, they had long ceased to consider themselves bound by the natural order. Yet their latest conquest sought to expand beyond the physical, a dimension they labeled the nether plane. Among their elite, the mission was hailed as the Empire's crowning achievement. Commander Kral Azaresh stood at the helm of the expedition's command vessel, Eminence Prime, his tall, translucent form reflecting the ambient glow of the ship's core reactor. Like all Auralith, his physiology combined synthetic precision with biological evolution, making him the epitome of his kind. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the chamber as he addressed his officers. This hell, as the humans call it, is nothing more than an untamed realm of chaos. Primitive minds cloaked it in mysticism to mask their ignorance. Today, we claim it for the Empire. The officers murmured their agreement, the faint hum of their augmented minds linking via neural implants to share tactical data. Kral allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. The human myths surrounding hell amused him. Their species' penchant for dramatizing fear only underscored their inferiority. The invasion proceeded flawlessly at first. Auralith forces breached the dimensional rift with precision, their biomechanical troops pouring into the fiery expanse. At first glance, hell seemed to confirm the aliens' assumptions. A chaotic, grotesque realm of jagged cliffs, rivers of molten fire, and skies streaked with an eerie, crimson haze. Demonic creatures, twisted and monstrous, emerged from the shadows, howling their defiance. The Auralith met this resistance with cold efficiency. Their war machines unleashed streams of plasma that tore through hell's infernal creatures as though they were nothing more than vapor. Tactical drones mapped the terrain in moments, and towering walkers carved paths through the molten rivers, their energy shields absorbing the searing heat. Kral watched the battle unfold from the command deck, his neural interface feeding real-time data directly into his mind. Everything was proceeding as planned. Hell, despite its ominous reputation, was no match for the Empire's might. But amid the initial victories, there were anomalies. Reports trickled in from the vanguard, weapons malfunctioning without warning, energy shields flickering despite no apparent external interference. One scout team disappeared entirely near a colossal black monolith, its surface etched with shifting, indecipherable runes. Commander, an officer spoke, breaking into Kral's reverie. Our squads near Sector Gamma 7 report unexplainable losses. Sensor readings are inconsistent, and the local spatial coordinates seem to shift. Kral dismissed the concerns with a wave of his hand. Hell is unstructured by nature. Such phenomena are to be expected in a primitive realm. Adapt and continue the advance. Beneath his calm exterior, however, unease began to creep in. He prided himself on his analytical mind, but the reports defied logic. The demons' resistance, though initially fierce, now felt almost orchestrated, their retreats too orderly, too deliberate. And those symbols, he had never encountered anything like them, even in his empire's vast archives. On the battlefield, the Auralith pushed deeper into hell, constructing crystalline fortresses to consolidate their hold. The demons retreated further, melting into the endless expanse of fire and shadow. For every advance, however, the realm seemed to retaliate in subtle ways. Machinery grinding to a halt, soldiers reporting strange whispers echoing through their communication channels, and shadows flickering where no light should have cast them. In one particularly eerie encounter, an Auralith officer named Zavarn led his squad into a cavern dominated by a massive obsidian throne. Though empty, the throne exuded a palpable aura of dread. As Zavarn approached, his squad mates reported hearing faint, mocking laughter, though no source could be found. Minutes later, contact with the squad was lost. When a recovery team arrived, they found no trace of the soldiers, only the throne, its surface now glowing faintly with a crimson hue. Kral received the report with growing irritation. This realm was supposed to be their greatest triumph, a demonstration of Auralith's superiority over myth and superstition. Yet the more they pushed, the more hell seemed to push back. Not with brute force, but with an intelligence that defied comprehension. As the Auralith expanded their hold, they remained unaware that they were being watched. From atop a jagged spire overlooking the battlefield, Lucifer observed their every move. His dark wings framed against the churning red sky, his form exuded both menace and regality. Clad in a black and crimson armor that seemed to pulse with the realm's energy, he watched with a knowing smile. "Fools," he murmured, his voice a rich, malevolent melody that resonated through the air. "They believe they can conquer what they cannot even begin to understand." For eons, Lucifer had waited for an opportunity like this. The Auralith's arrogance was a gift, their invasion a spark to awaken hell's dormant power. With every step they took, they unwittingly fed the infernal energies, strengthening the realm and binding it tighter to Lucifer's will. As the Auralith celebrated their early victories, Krall's unease continued to grow. He stood alone in the observation chamber, gazing out at the shifting landscape of hell. The molten rivers seemed to writhe with intent, the shadows flickering like living things. In that moment, Krall felt the faintest pang of doubt, an emotion he had long thought eradicated from his being. And then he saw it. Far in the distance, a massive, shadowy figure stood against the horizon, its glowing red eyes locked onto the command vessel. It was gone in a blink, leaving no trace of its presence, but the impression lingered. Krall clenched his fists. "This is no mere chaos," he muttered. "Something watches us." Yet, despite his growing suspicions, Krall pushed the thought aside. The Auralith were conquerors. No force, however enigmatic, could stand against their empire. Unbeknownst to him, the trap was already closing. The Auralith were no strangers to triumph. Victory came as naturally as the breath of life to these conquerors of worlds. Yet in hell, their victories felt hollow. Every advancement was met with resistance that dissolved too quickly, as if the opposition knew the exact moment to retreat. Fortress after crystalline fortress rose from the scorched earth, glowing beacons of alien domination. Still, a lingering unease permeated their triumphs, like a shadow that danced just beyond the edge of sight. Within Eminence Prime's war chamber, Krall Azaresh stared intently at the tactical holodisplay. The glowing projections detailed Hell's vast expanse, from fiery chasms to fortresses built upon cliffs of jagged obsidian. The data feeds were rich with information, maps of energy readings, troop movements, and dimensional anomalies. Yet something was missing. The rhythm of the realm defied quantification, as if it were alive and mocking their intrusion. "This realm resists us with a cunning not born of chaos," Krall said, addressing his assembled officers. His voice carried the weight of unflinching authority, but his translucent form betrayed faint flickers of agitation. Zavarn, one of the high-ranking officers, stepped forward. "Commander, our forces have carved out significant territory. Whatever resistance Hell possesses, it lacks coordination. Their so-called rulers are fragmented at best." Krall's piercing eyes narrowed. "Fragmented rulers do not inspire such calculated retreats or encircle our forces without engagement. We're being led, herded, even." He tapped the controls of the holo display, shifting its perspective to show one of Hell's colossal monoliths, towering spires of stone etched with symbols that defied understanding. The Auralith's attempts to scan or study them had failed, as though the very essence of their science unraveled in proximity. "Every monolith exudes energy beyond our comprehension," Krall continued. "Our science cannot decipher it. They are more than landmarks. They are the keys to this place." Before anyone could respond, the ship trembled. The lights dimmed for a fleeting moment, and a low, resonant laughter echoed faintly through the air. It wasn't the kind of sound transmitted through comms or the result of vibrations. It came from nowhere and everywhere. The Auralith officers stiffened. "Malfunctions in a controlled environment," Krall said, his voice sharp. "Report." But no reports came, only silence. A sudden voice pierced the quiet, deep and commanding. It oozed charisma and menace in equal measure. "Commander Isresh," the voice intoned, reverberating through the ward chamber like a melody spun from shadows. "You trespass in my domain." The figure materialized before them, seemingly stepping out from the darkness itself. Lucifer. His appearance was both regal and predatory. Sharp features framed by flowing black hair, clad in armor that gleamed like obsidian, lined with veins of burning crimson. His towering form emanated power, and his glowing red eyes fixed on Crawl with an unsettling blend of amusement and malice. "I have allowed you to amuse yourselves long enough," Lucifer continued, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Did you believe for even a moment that your mortal minds could comprehend this place? Your theatrics will not save you, ruler of ashes." Crawl shot back, stepping forward defiantly. "Your realm is broken, your forces scattered. You are no ruler, only a remnant of chaos." Lucifer chuckled. It was not the humorless laugh of one threatened, but the dark, rich sound of a predator toying with its prey. He took a deliberate step closer, the room seeming to bend with his movements, shadows reaching for him like loyal subjects. "This realm," Lucifer said, his voice growing cold, "is as infinite and unknowable as the mind of its master. You think my demons are your true adversaries." He shook his head slowly, the grin never leaving his face. "You invaded not hell, but the idea of it, a force given shape by belief, terror, and ambition." Before Crawl could respond, Lucifer extended a hand, palm open. The holographic display flickered, then reshaped itself. Instead of mapping the Auralith's territories, it began displaying scenes of chaos within the alien footholds. Soldiers consumed by fire that left no trace. Fortresses collapsing under waves of intangible force. "Your weapons will not protect you. Your shields will not save you," Lucifer said, his voice growing quieter but no less ominous. "With every step you take, you feed my realm. The deeper you burrow into hell, the more it binds you. And when you fall, and you will fall, it will not be death that greets you, but eternity." For a fleeting moment, Crawl felt genuine fear. Not for his forces, but for the integrity of his empire's entire endeavor. But pride reasserted itself, and he barked orders to his neural network. "Cut him off," Crawl commanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. "Silence whatever projection this is." The attempt was futile. Lucifer vanished on his own terms, leaving behind a resounding whisper that seemed to echo directly into their minds. "I am no figment. You have lost this battle already. Stay, and witness the cost of arrogance." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the rising cacophony of alarms as Hell's retaliation began in earnest. Across the battlefield, Auralith outposts erupted in chaos. Soldiers reported sudden gaps in their neural links, severing them from their commanders. Equipment malfunctioned in terrifying ways. Energy shields fluctuating, weapons refusing to fire, and vehicles collapsing under their own weight as if gravity had shifted around them. The demons, once retreating, returned with an unholy vengeance. They were no longer wild and chaotic, but terrifyingly coordinated. Towers of bone and flame rose from the ground, channeling infernal energy that tore through Auralith defenses with ease. Reality itself seemed to twist, lines between dimensions bending, so that reinforcements became lost in endless corridors of molten stone and darkness. Onboard Eminence Prime, Crawl gripped the command console, his stoic facade cracking as reports poured in. "All units, pull back to primary coordinates. Regroup at once." "Commander," one officer said shakily, "it's not working. The spatial fields. We're trapped within the boundaries of this realm." Lucifer's voice resonated once more, this time softer, almost mocking. "Run, little conquerors. Your fates were sealed the moment you entered." Crawl stood motionless, his pride at war with an overwhelming sense of doom. But as the fires of hell consumed his footholds, one terrible truth became undeniable. Lucifer hadn't been lying. Every choice, every advance, every so-called victory, they had all been part of a greater scheme. The trap was sprung. Hell was not silent. Its twisted corridors echoed with cries, snarls, and the clash of alien arrogance meeting an infernal fury they had never anticipated. Yet amid the chaos of the Auralith's crumbling conquest, another presence emerged on the battlefield. Humanity, hidden in the swirling smoke and shadow of Lucifer's domain. A specialized human strike force moved with calculated precision, led by Commander Dalia Ward, a veteran of humanity's desperate scrambles for survival in a universe dominated by conquerors like the Auralith. They were uniquely qualified for impossible situations. Dalia, clad in matte black combat gear and augmented with neural interface implants, surveyed the carnage before her. "What the hell are they even doing here?" murmured Lieutenant Corin Hale, her demolitions expert, his voice tinged with morbid awe as he watched an Auralith squad collapse under the weight of a tide of shifting shadows. "They thought hell was theirs to take," Dalia replied sharply, keeping her voice low. "Just like every other galaxy they've crushed. But this time they miscalculated." Her gaze hardened. "We're here to make sure humanity doesn't pay the price for their stupidity." The strike force had not come alone. Their arrival in hell was the result of an ancient bargain whispered through generations of humanity's secret societies. While the Auralith's arrogance opened the gates to this infernal dimension, humanity had long known to respect and fear the myths. It wasn't superstition that led to humanity's fraught entanglement with hell. It was knowledge of a darker truth, one Lucifer was more than willing to exploit. As her team advanced across a ridge overlooking an alien fortress now under siege by unrelenting demonic hordes, Dalia couldn't help but feel the tension thickening in her chest. The landscape itself seemed alive, churning with malicious energy as hell actively consumed its latest invaders. Yet for all its hostility, the realm hadn't yet turned against her team. That wasn't luck. It was deliberate. "Eyes up," Dalia ordered, her voice tight. "Lucifer's watching." They all knew it. The Prince of Darkness might have manipulated the Auralith into this disaster, but he had extended a different kind of invitation to humanity, a deal wrapped in riddles and shadowed truths. Lucifer's proposition had been simple. Work with him, ensure the Auralith's utter annihilation, and humanity would receive power. A power strong enough to deter any would-be galactic conqueror. It was a carrot dangled in front of a species desperate to survive. "Commander," came a voice over her comms. It was Corporal Lynn Yates, her sniper. "Something's happening at the monolith." Dalia turned her gaze to the horizon. In the distance, the massive black spire loomed, its glowing red runes pulsating with an energy that set her teeth on edge. Around its base, alien forces were collapsing in disarray, their once mighty weapons rendered useless by the realm's whims. And then he appeared. Lucifer stood at the summit of the monolith, his dark form commanding the space as though he were its living heartbeat. Below him, demons surged forward with impossible speed and force, shredding what remained of the Auralith lines. With a single gesture, Lucifer sent waves of infernal energy cascading across the battlefield, reducing alien war machines to molten slag. His crimson eyes locked onto Dalia's position, and even at a distance, she felt the intensity of his gaze. "Ward to team," she said into her comms. "Time to move. The monolith is our objective. Right into Lucifer's lap." Corin muttered as they began their descent. "If you want us dead, we'd already be gone," Dalia replied, though her stomach churned at the prospect of walking into what was clearly a trap. As they approached the base of the monolith, the air itself seemed to hum with anticipation. Lucifer descended to meet them, his movements fluid, almost casual, as if time bent to accommodate him. "So the humans come bearing their fragile mortal resolve," Lucifer said, his voice like silk dipped in fire. "You are either bold or foolish, though I often find those traits interchangeable." Dalia stepped forward, keeping her expression steely. "We're here for terms." The Auralith are already finished. Let's make this clean. Lucifer smirked, circling them with deliberate ease. Such conviction. I admire it, truly. You see, unlike our overreaching friends, your species has learned one vital thing. Fear. Not submission, but respect for what cannot be fully controlled. That is why I entertain your presence. Spare the speeches, Dalia snapped. What's your game? My game, Lucifer repeated, his smirk deepening. He gestured to the ruins of an alien fortress now swallowed by flame. This entire conflict has served its purpose. Hell needed its strength replenished, its essence reignited. The Auralith provided the perfect spark. And us, you, Lucifer said, stopping directly in front of Dalia, are an investment. Humanity's resilience intrigues me. You are clever, resourceful, and most importantly, hungry. Unlike those who claim supremacy, you understand the price of power. He leaned in, his tone dropping to a menacing whisper. But beware, Commander. The deals you strike here will ripple far beyond this battlefield. Dalia held his gaze, refusing to flinch. We'll take our chances. Lucifer laughed, a low, resonant sound that echoed in their very bones. Very well. When the Auralith are no more, I will honor our bargain. Use Hell's boon wisely. Or don't. Either way, I always win. As Lucifer faded into the shadows, the ground beneath their feet began to quake. Above them, the monolith's glow intensified, and in the distance, the final remnants of the Auralith forces were obliterated in an apocalyptic wave of flame and darkness. Commander, Lynn said, her voice taut. What happens now? Dalia's eyes lingered on the monolith, a mix of dread and determination in her gaze. We make sure humanity doesn't become the next target of whatever he has planned. With that, they turned and began their retreat, Hell's whispers following them every step of the way.